Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, I said I wouldn't do this. Oh, God, I'm so disappointed in myself. Cue the music. Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name is Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and are joined each week by a very special different guest. It wouldn't be a Disney-related episode without Mark Russell. Hi, Mark, how you doing?
Hello, everybody.
So I said I wouldn't do this. I said, until it came out of Premiere Access, I would not review this movie. But, so last week, we were talking about Asian representation. I got me thinking about this movie, and I realised that as much as I loathe the fact that Disney are sticking this movie behind a paywall, which is already behind a paywall of a subscription service.
Oh.
Yeah, as much as I hate it, this is a movie that is worth talking about, because I was excited for this movie. I remember seeing the first trailer and thinking, oh God, another Disney bit of bullshit. Let's see what this is about. And then it had this awesome song in it. It had all these Legend of Korra vibes. And then she's traveling through the desert on top of a giant armadillo bug thing. I thought, wow, this might be cool. Then the second trailer came out and I thought, ooh, that doesn't look quite as good. But you never know, it might still be great. Yeah, I didn't like this movie. Did not like this movie.
Why am I not surprised?
I wanted to! I went into it with both eyes open, being reasonably optimistic, and at first it seemed like it was going to be okay, but with each passing second, it just ground me down because they don't know how to write fucking movies! And we're going to get into all of that. But before we do that, we've got to do the news. Fair bit of news coming for you today. So, first of all, some new trailers have dropped. First and foremost, a new trailer for the upcoming animated Star Wars series, The Bad Batch. I'm reasonably optimistic about this show. What about you, Mark?
Well, I haven't seen the trailer, but I do like Clone Wars.
Yeah, but this isn't Clone Wars, though. This isn't your granddad's Clone Wars. This is going to be based after the Clone Wars, featuring the clone squad of, defect clones introduced in the very last season of Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, and features them possibly going rogue against the Empire. Should be a fair bit of fun. Not a lot of story or at least character stuff coming out. That's what I'd like to see about this. I'd like to see a real in-depth character look at these clones, because as much as we did get some character development, in fact a fair bit of character development for some of the clones in the Clone Wars TV show proper, it was very much an ensemble piece, and it wasn't really about character development so much as telling these stories, which it did very well. Here, you've got a chance to tell great stories, but also include some real character development for these clones. How do they, identify as clones when they are no longer part of the clone army of the Republic? There is no more Republic, and they're on the run. How do they establish individual identities for themselves when all they know is how to be soldiers? It should be really, really interesting. And considering that it's the first wave of a whole big daddy bunch of Star Wars content coming to us over the next few years, hopefully this will be a good step forward.
I hope. I mean, D. Bradley Baker's going to have this work cut out for him, since he's going to be watching the entire cast.
When is he not the entire cast? I mean, he was basically carrying the entire Clone Wars TV show proper on his shoulders, which he did phenomenally. And this time he gets to do the same thing, except he gets to have a bit more diversity in how he tenors his voice. Because, I can't remember their names, but main clone guy with half a tattooed face is very different from big beefy clone guy who has the word himbo tattooed on his forehead if I've ever seen one.
I mean, the only character's name I remember is Echo because he was from Rex's squad. So we'll
Yeah.
have to.
Who is my favourite clone, by the way?
The best clone ever.
I love Echo. He's great. On top of that, we've also got the trailer for Season 5 of Rick and Morty. More wubba-lubba-dub-dub shenanigans coming to us from Dan Hallman and Justin Roiland. It looks to be pretty good. Not really much more we could say about it. It's Rick and Morty. If you haven't watched it by now, either go and watch it and you'll figure out pretty quickly whether or not you like it or not. Or you have watched it, in which case you're going to go see it. You don't really need us to talk about it, but it's news, and so we're going to talk about it. What is slightly bigger news is Godzilla vs. King Kong is out. Some critics seem to think it was decent enough, which for Godzilla vs. King Kong is kind of disappointing. I'm not sure of the fan response, to be perfectly honest. I checked out of that with the first new American Godzilla thing, the one with Bryan Cranston, where he was the main character, but he was only in a third of the movie.
Yeah.
Remember that? Fucking hell, that. And I was like, oh, I don't care about this. And then the fucking General guy is just like, let them fight. What? Why? Maybe use some of this giant military hardware that you've got. Huh? You don't know that he's going to... Oh, they're apex predators, so naturally they duke it out. Yeah, either that or they'll leave each other alone. They're completely different organisms from completely different biomes. Why would they suddenly just instantly perceive each other as a threat? Jesus. And... I didn't like that movie. I did not fucking like the movie. It was boring. It was fucking boring. And Godzilla shouldn't be boring. So I didn't see the next one. Maybe the next one was great. It had Millie Bobby Brown in it. So.
It's amazing.
Is it really?
It is the human story always kind of is boring, but cause it's done by Michael Dougherty, who did Krampus and Trick or Treat, and was the writer for X-Men 2, and he is a diehard Godzilla fan. And he knew that these characters had to look spectacular. And visually speaking, it's amazing. The score is by, what's his name? Bear McCreary. And so it's visually, as a Godzilla film, it's fantastic. As a story, it kind of blows. Definitely worth the watch there as a Godzilla fan.
But that's it. I'm not a massive Godzilla fan. I don't hate the character, and I'll watch a movie that I think is good with him in it, but nothing about these movies really appeals to me or draws me in. It's like, oh, we're trying to set up a, cinematic universe, but you're crap at it. Why are so many people crap at it?
Because they don't get it.
Because they don't get it. And I really hated that fucking King Kong movie because most of the characters were boring. Yeah, but then you've got this brilliant setup. A World War II American pilot and a World War II Japanese pilot crash on the same island together. And suddenly it's an island where King Kong lives. Ooh, and they've got to band together to survive. Oh, wait, no, we cut to 50 years later where it's just John C. Reilly. The Japanese guy is dead. And it's like... So they put aside the fact that they were an opposing side to this war to come together and survive and became really good friends. And then we don't see any of it. And then we're stuck with these boring things like Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson are just there. Samuel L. Jackson is just there. I don't care about any of them. And then it's just John C. Reilly, and then you think, oh, it's going to be a really emotional moment when he comes home. And he does go home, and then everybody sits down in front of the TV and has a beer. That's the big much denouement of the movie. Fuck you, King Kong. It was shit. It was shit.
Well,
Here's the news. Here's the news I'm trying to get at. The director of Godzilla vs. King Kong, Adam Wingard, has been tapped to direct a Thundercats movie from Warner Brothers. Now, this is either going to go quite well or terribly. I honestly don't think there's going to be any in between because Thundercats has, it's left its mark on people's nostalgia. Obviously, Thundercats. Oh! That was the best part of the whole show, just the intro, because the rest of it was just like PSA for kids. Remember, kids, look both ways before crossing the street. Snarf, snarf, exactly.
Snarf.
Then there was that. I remember seeing I think it was a fan-made proof of concept CGI Thundercats thing in the early days of YouTube. I have since not been able to find it again. It looked pretty interesting. Then there was a Thundercats cartoon reboot, which took itself a bit more seriously. It was supposedly quite good. I saw a few episodes. It didn't really hold my interest, but it was fine for kids. Then there's Thundercats Go.
Ugh, it's terrifying.
If there's one bad thing we can attribute to Teen Titans Go, and there are many bad things we can attribute to Teen Titans Go, it's giving us this new brand of wacky, insane, nonsensical, non sequitur brand of animation just being pasted onto franchises that it doesn't belong to. I have nothing against that kind of humor. I'm just saying it doesn't belong really in Teen Titans, and it doesn't belong in Thundercats, and it certainly does not belong in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh god, the new show looks dreadful.
That is exactly what I'm referring to, and it is quite dreadful. Splinter suffers the worst for it. It's really not bad. But I think maybe a new live-action Thundercats movie might be quite good with the right person attached. Of course, a lot of people don't really like Adam Wingard, mainly because Godzilla vs. King Kong has been review-bombed by Zack Snyder fans.
Oh, grow up. For God's sake, you got what you want, and now you're going to go shit all over other movies.
That have nothing to do with the Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't. Am I missing something? Why do you care? Just don't go and see it if you care that much, or go and see it. In which case, you might enjoy it, and win-win. It's this is the only movie. This is the only movie. Yeah. As you say, grow up. And this brings us nicely to the rest of the news. Regarding Zack Snyder and DC. So now DC recently announced they had cancelled 2 upcoming movies, New Gods, which I'm only vaguely familiar with. They're not even doing it. And there was also a James Wan Trench film, a spin-off of Aquaman about the trench, which confused me, and I think a bunch of other people. Why would you make a movie about that one particular part of that Aquaman movie that was kind of scary and dark? I don't understand. Do you just like it that much?
Okay, but if you have Julie Andrews as a sea monster for an entire movie, I'm game.
Well, apparently you're not game because DC have cancelled it, so you're not going to get it. Tough shit. This has all led to a lot of stuff coming out from behind the scenes, hinting at, in some cases even stating at, a conflict between DC, Warner Brothers, Zack Snyder, and the fans.
And HBO.
And it's a whole mess. I honestly could not describe it to people succinctly with the time we have. I will just say this. When Batman vs. Superman came out, and everyone was shitting on it, rightfully so, the one line that everyone was saying, from Ben Affleck to Zack Snyder to the execs at Warner Brothers, everyone was saying, oh, we made this for the fans. And now it seems they don't really like the fans that much. Granted, when you review bomb other movies, maybe the fans don't deserve to be liked that much, but it's... Everyone's saying, restore the Snyderverse, restore the Snyder Cut, and it's just when you're a studio exec whose whole modus operandi is all about pandering to people, because that's how Hollywood executives operate now, when the fans come up in unison and say, we want this thing, what incentive do you have to not give it to them? I do not understand. It is beyond me. And that is the news for today. To top off this really depressing news, here's some ads.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
And we're back. Okay, so is it Raya or Raya? I can't remember.
Raya.
See, that's the thing. Here's the thing. There's a character in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim called Raya with 2 Ys. And this character only has 1 Y. So I'm confused. I am not to blame.
Oh dear.
God, so like I said, I was looking forward to this movie, and I don't like it. I do not like it. It's disappointing to me for a variety of reasons. I will say it's... Well, I don't want to say it's better than some Disney movies, but you know what? In many ways it is better, but in many ways it's kind of worse. Like, the thing I kept on comparing it in my mind was one of the more recent Disney animated releases, Moana. And because, you know, it's all about characters going on a journey, they team up with this mythological being, there's parallels. But I didn't like Moana. I thought it was a Disney checklist movie. I thought they were just like, yeah, okay, so Princess, tick, goes on a journey, tick, wants something more, tick, comedic sidekick, tick, animal sidekick, tick. The only ticks that weren't filled out were obvious bad guy villain, and with the possible exception of the crab, and... the fact that there was no love interest, and I don't count not including stupid things as a good thing. I don't count that. That's bad faith criticism, in my opinion. But that movie just it had nothing to say. It was not interesting aside from, oh, we should go explore. Fuck enjoying this nice home that we have. Let's just go explore. And I'm all for characters going on adventures and exploring and stuff. But they literally lived in a tropical paradise. What was so wrong with that, Moana? What was so wrong with that? But and it didn't really have a message. It wasn't trying to say anything. It was always kind of a nothing movie. Mark is putting his head in his hands in despair. It's been a while since I've gone on a Disney rant for him. But this movie, conversely, has a lot of things to say. Well, one thing in particular, which we'll get to. And so you'd think that would be a point in its favour. And it is. But they tell it horribly! I cannot stress how much I don't like at least the way they present the central moral of the movie in this movie. It's something that we're going to get to. So let's just start at the fucking beginning. First of all, I think I think I speak for everyone when I say how glad I am that Disney gave this main role of Raya, to Kelly Marie Tran.
Hey.
She deserved it.
Absolutely.
And not just because she got shat on by all the Star Wars fans and got traumatized by them, basically, but also because she is a good actor. Like, she did not have a lot of experience before she started The Last Jedi, but judging by her performance in that movie and this movie, I think she's a great actor, and she deserves to be in more roles. I think she's great.
Absolutely.
So, Raya the Last Dragon. This story takes place in the fictional land of Kumandra.
Ooh.
And the whole thing about this movie is that it's based on Southeast Asian mythology and culture, which is really cool. Haven't seen that in a Disney movie. Although, I do have one question. What happens when Disney movies have managed to represent every single culture known to man out there?
Aliens!
They kind of already did that with Chicken Little. Mars meets Moms as well.
Talking plants? I don't know.
No, I don't know. And Southeast Asian mythology, which is really cool. What's less cool is the vast majority of the voice actors are not Southeast Asian, or indeed of Southeast Asian descent. They are of East Asian descent. And as we described last week in our episode talking about Asian representation, Asian people are not a monolith. Very different, very unique cultures all across the entire continent. And I'm not saying any of the voice actors in this movie are bad. In fact, the opposite. I don't think there's a single bad voice performance or bad voice actor in the entire movie. They're all fantastic. It's just Disney, once again, were very quick to tout this movie as a great example of representation. And don't get me wrong, we deserve representation. We deserve to have movies that do have great representation. That's important. But when you go on and on about how your film is an example of great representation, guess what? We're going to hold you to some pretty high fucking standards. So don't be surprised if you set a movie in a specific locale, or at least inspired by a specific locale, featuring characters that are supposed to be of a specific ethnicity, and you don't cast people to represent that ethnicity! That we get angry! It's like, oh my god, it's Mulan all over a fucking game!
Oh dear.
Do you think they would learn? Mark, you would have thought they would have learnt.
You thought you would learn their lesson. They also haven't taken lessons from G.I. Joe at all. They never learn.
It's just... Oh, God.
With representation, you kind of need to legitimize it. You need to make it real. Don't say, here's our magical Southeastern-inspired land, and now here's all the cast who are voiced by people not from Southeastern descent.
Exactly, and bear in mind, you bring up a good point, that we have to remember that this is Kumandra. It's not Southeast Asia. It's not Thailand. It's not any of these places. And I'm going to bring up one franchise that's going to get referenced repeatedly in this episode, Avatar: The Last Airbender. So a lot of people claim that Avatar: The Last Airbender is great representation. And whilst it's a great show, and I think it's great that they include all these influences from various parts of Asia, it's not really representation, not just because of the voice actors or anything, but simply because Aang is not Tibetan or Nepalese. Qatar and Sokka are not Inuit. They are air nomad and water tribe. So the show can't really bear the burden of great representation. But here's the difference. The makers of Avatar: The Last Airbender, to my knowledge, have never claimed that it was great representation. Nor did they, go on and on and on about it. Disney did. That is the source of my anger here. It's not that it's necessarily bad representation. It's that they held it up as good representation when it so clearly isn't. It's yet another example of Disney's fucking hypocrisy, and I'm sick of it! God, we're not even half an hour into the episode, and I'm already fucking angry.
What else is new?
Okay, so we established that this world used to contain dragons. But they're not European dragons. They're actually based on Asian dragons specifically. I don't know this for certain because I haven't looked at behind the scenes stuff, but I think it might be mainly based on Chinese dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different kinds of dragons. The further down south you go, Southeast Asia, I think, has its own mythology when it comes to these sort of dragons. But it's a made-up land. I don't begrudge them this. And what's cool about this, though, now, point in this movie's favour is that in China, specifically at least, dragons in mythology did not breathe fire. They breathed. They breathed water. They had water powers, the same as the dragons in this movie. That's a really nice detail that I actually really like.
I believe they're based on Quillins, which are water elementals. They could walk on water, they could purify water, bring the rain, that sort of thing. Yeah,
it's a really nice touch, and it separates this movie from a lot of other movies with Asian influences. And so everyone lives in harmony with the dragons, but then, oh no, these creatures called the Droon, appear. Now, the Droon are basically these big purple smoke monsters. I guess they escaped from the Lost Island that turn people into statues. Now, this brings up a few questions. What are the Droon? Why do the Droon exist? Where did they come from? Why do they turn people into statues? All these questions and more will not be answered!
I'm sure there's an explanation somewhere, mythologically based wise, but not in the movie.
Not in the movie. And they're establishing their own mythology, so they should establish their own mythology. And I think someone mentions at some point that they come from, human discord, which is the most vague explanation you could possibly get. I haven't even gone to the main story yet, and already this makes no fucking sense!
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Ugh. God. Okay. And everyone's doing great until the drones show up and start turning people into fucking statues like the Medusa or something. But then the dragons use their magic to send all the nasty drone away. Yay! Leaving one last dragon, Sisu, behind to actually do the banishing. And leaving behind a magic gem.
Ooh.
And this also in turn revives all of Commander's people from being statues, but not the dragons, who all get turned to statues. And then it's just like, okay, so no more dragons, but there is this cool orb. Let's fight over it!
Of course.
And a power struggle for the orb divides Commander's various factions and tribes, and then they all just split up into their own lands based around a dragon anatomy. So there's fang, heart, spine, talon, and tail. And out of all of those, heart kind of skips out a bit. Like, I mean, we all have hearts, but not everyone has a fang, a spine, a talon, or a tail. I'm just saying that's the odd one out. It's kind of weird.
Because who noticed that the film is called The Last Dragon and the main location is called Heart? Where's Sean Connery when you need him?
Yeah! Fucking yeah! And that's another thing.
I have come to Commandra.
I am the last one!
I am the last dragon. I've come to Commandra.
Please, for the love of God, keep Dennis Quaid away from me. I can't do Sean Connery.
There can only be one Highlander. High Dragon. Shit.
Jesus. And this begins one of... Oh, God. So this movie has something to say about the nature of human condition, about how we shouldn't be divided, about how we can't let petty rivalries distract each other from the true meaning of Christmas or some bullshit. We should all work together and not be divided. Okay, so Disney, I get that you have a message that you're trying to send. I get it, and it's a good message about how we shouldn't be divided and we should be united. That's great. Could you elaborate? Could you go into further detail? Could you maybe show the moral ambiguity of, unity and vision and, the various complex ways that can represent in our society, in our politics, or just in our everyday lives? Could you do that, Disney? No? You'd rather just put a pithy quote of the day quote of just as this movie's like central theme, just like we should be united, not divided. Well, that's great. I know this movie's for kids, but you could go a bit more in depth.
You think the only people who are people?
Yeah, you joke, but that's the exact same thing that Pocahontas did. Except, at least this movie has the shield of not being based on real life events and take place in a fictitious universe, whereas that movie was just like, hey, maybe the Native Americans and brutal white colonizers who committed genocide should learn to get along. But it's the same concept, just like, Jesus, it's... You know what? Again, Avatar did this better. I know Avatar was a TV series with 3 seasons, so it had more time to explore that concept. But if you're going to bring that up, best be prepared to talk about it in reasonable detail. This movie wants to be Avatar / Legend of Korra so fucking bad! It's pathetic. Be you. We all saw. I was one of the many people who said on viewing the first trailer, like, "Ooh, her haircut looks a little bit like Korra from Legend of Korra." I didn't think they would want to copy it this bad. It's because Avatar is getting such huge traction lately, and I imagine they started production on this movie during like the lull of the Avatar fandom. Like there were still Avatar fans around, people talking about it, but it wasn't quite at the same height as it was when it first came out and how it is today. So I thought, okay, we can sort of sneak our Asian-themed movie that's Avatar-esque in under the radar. And then it got hugely popular and just like, oh shit, we're committed now, nothing much we can do. It's really annoying, and it just makes me want to go and watch that show. Both it and Legend of Korra. Jesus. So, 500 years after Sisu, the last dragon, supposedly died, Chief Daniel Day Kim of the Heart Tribe is, like a guardian of the gem, and he's been training his daughter to guard the gem. And it's like, okay, you're ready now. And it's just like, she's a child. Like, I am all for training this young girl to be a warrior defender of the gem. That's really awesome, but I don't think she's quite there yet. What is she, 10?
I think says she was 12, actually.
Okay, 12. Oh, that's so much better. It's like if the Queen charged a 12-year-old to guard the crown jewels. There is no shortage of adults who can do that. She's like, okay there, Timmy, here's your sword. If anyone gets through here, cut a bitch up.
Although Henry VIII's son did become king at 11 years old, so does that count?
No, it doesn't, because no one expected him to have to defend, magical objects of power with his life. He was pretty much just meant to sit around and do nothing, but we'll teach you how to be king for when you're older. And what happened to that kid? He died. So, yeah, maybe children, unless you have no other option, should not be, exclusively in charge of defending mystical objects of power. I don't see Dora the Explorer guarding the Ark of the Covenant anytime soon. Anyway.
What is this? Is this the Ark? Yes.
No shit! Anyway. But here's the thing. All the different tribes are divided and at each other's throats. And Chief Daniel Day Kim, I've forgotten his actual name. I'm just going to call him Daniel Day Kim. I'm so glad Daniel Day Kim is still getting work after the monstrous disaster that was Hellboy. Because he's a good actor. He deserves to be in more things.
Yeah, and he's also having a reunion with Sandra Oh, and they're both in She-Ra together.
So they were! Oh, that's cool! I hadn't even thought of that.
The royal siblings.
They don't share any screen time or anything in the movie, at least. But oh no, they do. They do a little bit. Briefly. But no, that's cool. I hadn't thought of that. And so, yeah... the point is, he doesn't like the fact that the tribes are constantly at war with each other, so he invites representatives from all the tribes to his, to Heart, where they live. It is Heart, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, because they've got a big stone mountain thing with a big hole in it in the shape of a heart. And they built their palace on top of that. That does not look structurally sound. I mean, erosion alone over the years is going to cause some serious damage. I mean... what are the foundations are on that thing? I dread to think. One strong ringed. No, crush. So he invites them all over to Heart. And they're just like, oh, why are we here? You keep on hoarding the gem for yourself. And it's just like, well, if you hate him so much, why did you even come? And it looks like everyone's like really giving up for a fight. But then I nearly called a Korra. I had to stop myself mentally. Raya goes up to the daughter of the chief of Fang, Namari, voiced by another great actor, Gemma Chan. And he's just like, hey, I like your dragon necklace thing. Are you a dragon nerd? I am a dragon nerd. I'm a huge dragon nerd. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is cute. But I've got a horrible feeling about this dialogue. And the dialogue in this movie is so fucking dated. And I don't mean dated in the sense like it's something like would be written in the 90s or something. No, it's dated for today times. But people are going to watch it in the future, and it's going to seem really, really cringy. I bet you anything. Again... I swear this isn't going to be a comparison all the way through, but in Avatar: The Last Airbender, they kept the speech fairly colloquial without including a bunch of like slang terms and stuff, so the dialogue is timeless without feeling clunky and Lord of the Ringsy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a bit too modern-y for a place that's apparently an ancient tech place, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you don't have to just speak like wise ancient masters, because that's a completely different cliche. But this feels like it was cooked up by a marketer, just like, yeah, we want them to say like cool things, like call each other cat lady and nerd and, you know, stuff like that. It's throughout the whole movie. It's really long. And when they don't do that kind of dialogue, it's actually really good. It's not cringe-inducing at all. I mean, some of the messages are cringe-inducing, but we'll get to that later. So they all go into, the palace. They get to know each other. Namari and Raya get along. And like, oh, are we seeing the first buds of a romance between? No. No. Because Disney is so fucking cowardly. Actually, no, it's not cowardly. It's not cowardly. It cowardly implies that they want to include LGBTQIA plus characters or relationships on screen, but they just feel like, oh no, we're worried about losing money or something. No. That's what I thought at first. But this is all a calculated effort. Now, excuse me while I go and get my giant corkboard with lots of bit of paper on it and strings attached to push pins connecting all the dots in a pattern that only I can see, because I'm about to go conspiracy nut on your ass!
We're not even out of Act 1 yet.
No! Because this movie has so many things that how do we talk about in terms of representation? Because what they're doing, and they know they're doing it, is queer baiting. Pure and simple. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I'm not going to tell you wrong, but if they want to do a damn story that has two lesbians or two gay people in it, just do it. Don't don't dance around it like, just do it.
That's the thing. They don't want to do it because they don't want. They don't want to lose money. They don't want people saying, criticizing when they inevitably get it wrong, and they are inevitably going to get it wrong the one time they actually do it. At least in terms of the movies, they've done it in smaller things, like some of the TV shows and stuff that I've seen over the years, ranging from kind of ambiguous to, oh no, explicitly couldn't be anything else. But anything big, anything with a lot of attention, a lot of press, anything that they want to sell to other countries, like Malaysia, that is horrendously homophobic, they're not going to do it. Not because they don't want to, not because they're afraid to do so, but because they have absolutely no interest in doing it if it's not going to make them any money. No interest. They do it in the TV shows because they think, kids will like that, adults will like that, people will like that, and we're not going to lose anything from it. Here, and if they didn't include any hints, if they didn't include any subtle things, like at some point Raya calls Namari, Miss Undercut or something, and though apparently I heard that was put in by Kelly Marie Tran, who very much wanted the characters to get together. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, a Star Wars actor wanting a gay couple to be properly represented, only to find that Disney have gone against their wishes. Imagine that! Imagine that! But it's little things like that actually serve to the movie's detriment, because if you're gonna, like you say, if you want to represent that, just properly represent that. Don't dance around it. And they do dance around it to string the gay community along in terms of representation, so that they go and see it in the hopes that, will we finally have our gay Disney princess? And no, they will never, ever give it to us. Because best case scenario, they're homophobic. Worst case scenario, they're not homophobic, but very much want money from homophobic people. And I say that is worse because it implies a sort of abandonment of principle. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. They're getting along. It all seems to be going pretty well. And then so Raya is just like, hey, want to see the mystical dragon gem that all your other nations want? And then now he's like, sure, that sounds like fun, you best friend. Oh, God. Okay, so here we come to the first strike against the movie in terms of how it presents this concept of unity and trust. I can understand wanting to welcome the other tribes and make them feel important. That's a good thing to do. But you don't know this person, Raya. She is a stranger. She has stated that other countries want the gem, and that people from those countries, is it countries or just regions? I don't know. Nations, whatever. Avatar. And other countries blame Heart for their lack of prosperity by pointing at their prosperity and saying it must be due to the dragon gem, with absolutely no evidence, but still. And saying that her country of Fang is actually struggling quite a bit right now. Oh no. So why would you then take her to the dragon gem? It's just... Okay. I'm annoyed about this, but we have to bear in mind, like you said, Raya is 12 years old. She is a child. I'm not gonna blame her for this. Doesn't change the fact that I saw it coming a mile away. Namari betrays her!
Dun, dun, dun.
Immediately knocks her over, just like, I'm sorry, in another lifetime, we could have been friends. Maybe even something more, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, audience, audience. But I'm taking the dragon gem now, and then all the other tribes rush in. Like,
randomly, we don't even know where to go.
I guess they were just waiting outside.
Surprise!
Maybe Chief Daniel Day Kim was giving them the tour, who knows? Maybe he's just as stupid as his daughter.
Here's the map!
Like, yeah, maybe. And... And then they're just like, oh, the dragon gem, let's all get it. And he's like, no, don't do that. And here's my question. What was Chief Daniel Day Kim's plan? He invites them all there. He brings them to a big feast. Is that it? Was that it? Just like bring them to your house and give them a nice meal and that's it? Job done? Diplomacy? Like, if anything, it might seem like you're just rubbing your prosperity in their faces.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was watching it, my mind drifted into an alternate universe where this movie was much better. And like Daniel Day Kim Chief had proposed just like, hey, here's an idea. What if we all share the dragon gem? Like, here's my idea. 1 year, one nation gets it. The next year, they have a big ceremony where they hand off the gem to the next nation, and then so on and so forth. We go around everyone, and then in a few years, it comes back to the first nation, and we repeat the cycle all over again. That way, if you guys are right, and the gem does give us prosperity, then everyone gets to share in the prosperity. But if we live in the land of reality, like I'm doing, and it doesn't actually give us prosperity, then it's a ceremonial thing, but it's an important step in strengthening the ties between all of our tribes that were once one, but are now many. And I know that's just like fanfiction headcanon, but tell me that's not a terrible plan.
Well, it's not a terrible plan. The problem is that if you did go to someone else, they might say, yoink, finders keeper, it's ours now.
That's a very good point. In which case, all the other nations will be very angry at them, and then you'll be one nation against all of them, which wouldn't be a great scenario to be in. And chances are you wouldn't be as nice and as friendly as Chief Daniel Day Kim, meaning war. So everyone has an incentive to play nice. I thought this up in 5 seconds, so maybe it's not that great a plan, but who knows? Anyway, there's a big kerfuffle. The dragon gem gets broken. They snatch up all the pieces because humanity bad. And then the Droon comes back. It's like, oh, who could have predicted this? And then they start turning people to statues. Everyone runs away. And in the confusion, Raya gets pushed off the bridge out of the palace thing by her dad, just like saying, you've got to find the last dragon / defeat the Fire Nation. And then pushes her off and gets turned into a statue. Oh no. I gotta just say how much I do like, from a stylistic point, the fact that when they go into statues, they become like their heads bow and their hands get cupped together like they were a manufactured statue, rather than just being frozen in place in whatever position they were in. I thought that was a really nice detail.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, I don't know if it's like in prayer or an offering, or it's quite, it's a breath of fresh air instead of all just being, oh, statue's dead.
Yeah, exactly. And thus, Raya blames herself for something that was 100% not her fault, and entirely Namari's fault. Like, that's the thing. She blames her for this whole movie. Like, it's my fault that my father's a statue. It's my fault that we're all at war and the Droon are back. No, it isn't. It's Namari's. If it's not even Namari's, because she was also a child. It's her mum's for including her child. Played by Sandra Oh, by the way. For including her child in this massive conspiracy to steal this egg that directly led to it shattering. Like,
and you can associate Raya's naivete as hope, following her father's example. Say we must hope and trust that the other people will come and unify with us. Well, that didn't go very well, did it?
Yeah, and so it's. I wanted the movie throughout the whole movie. She blames herself, and at some point, I just wanted to realize, hang on. No, you know what? This whole time I blame myself, but it's not my fault. And it's not even yours. It's the people who manipulated both of us. And we need to be better. That does not happen. What does happen is a 6 cocking years time skip where she gathers all these pieces to hunt down and find Sisu the Last Dragon. What the fuck happened to her in those 6 years? That might have made for a more interesting movie.
She's going to all of the riverbanks to find Mr. Toad.
I mean, I don't know.
This is the kind of wacky time-wasting nonsense I've been missing.
If you're going to really copy Avatar, you might as well do that. Have her include all the same characters and just go on a journey to find the Last Dragon. Why wasn't this a TV show?
I don't know.
Why wasn't this...
It was interesting. They're making Moana TV series. This would have made quite a good one as well.
They're making a Moana TV series? Why?
Yeah, who knows why? They're probably going to be able to get Dwayne Johnson back.
Well, I mean, he is doing this TV series based on his own life, so...
Yeah, well, quite, I've
seen a few episodes of that. It's entirely fine.
What's it called? Rocking Out with the Rock?
No, it's called Young Rock. I think it probably should have been called Pebble, frankly. And it's all about 3 points of his life: when he was a little kid, when he was a teenager, and when he was in the NFL or something like that.
I didn't know it was in the NFL.
Very early before he started wrestling, and which is an interesting concept and way to do it. But it's interspersed with all these like interviews with him. And I like Dwayne Johnson as an actor. I think he's a very charismatic actor. He gives nothing in this. It's like set around this idea that he's running for president.
Oh, well, that didn't happen.
Yeah. It's set in the future, though. In the future.
I remember the time I was a CGI Scorpion Man.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, I wonder if they're ever going to get to that bit.
Mr. President, what are your thoughts on being the Scorpion King? The Scorpion President.
Like in the... Can I just say, side note, as much as that movie is stupid, I kind of like the Scorpion King standalone movie. Like, it's stupid, but it's fun, and it's got Kelly Hu in it, and frankly, she could step on me. So, just saying. Anyway, enough about Dwayne Johnson. 6 years, and then she goes to, what was it?
Shipwreck.
Yeah, it was a shipwreck.
This is where Elsa and Anna's parents died.
But what nation was it in?
Oh, in was it
Tail?
Tail.
It was in Tail, yeah. And so she immediately goes to Tail, narrowly avoids a Droon, and it starts with this really cool bit of her rolling along. Okay, so she has an animal psychic, Disney checklist, but it's also her main method of transportation. It's a giant woodlouse armadillo cute bud thing voiced by Alan Tudyk.
Woo!
And his name's Tuk Tuk, and I love him.
It's great, isn't it?
He is a precious baby.
It's like a Pokemon.
I would totally have him. Like, he's big enough to ride on, like on a big, huge ball.
Yeah.
And he has all these cute little chirrups and stuff. He started off in the beginning of the movie as being really tiny and then just got massive over 6 years. What the fuck was she feeding it? And just like her going through the deserts wearing this giant poncho, this big hat, a mask over her lower half of her face, on this giant armadillo woodlouse bug furry hamster thing. That's cool. That's cool. Really cool. She's got a sword that separates into like a different attachment, like a chain whip thing. this is really awesome. I just wish this was all in a better movie.
Hmm.
And then she does like a little ritual and summons Sisu.
Poof.
That was fucking quick.
Hmm.
And Sisu is voiced by Awkwafina, who's as much as she probably gives the best performance in the movie. And you know what? Yeah, I'm going to stand by that. I actually really liked her in this movie.
Well, she made me laugh a lot. It's like, oh god, she gave me like another Timon, Mushu type of thing. But then, like 5 minutes after I met her, I really began to laugh out loud.
Yeah, she's very funny. She's very sweet and very dry sense of humor. A lot of the big dialogue cringiness comes from her, but Awkwafina's performance kind of sells it because that's kind of her humor. So it works. It's just not going to work in the future when we move past that kind of thing. Oh, God. And then she discovers like the leader of Tail with the gem, except she's a skeleton.
Whoops.
And it's like, oh no. And so they grab the skeleton. No, they grab the gem probably, sorry, from the skeleton. Avoiding a bunch of booby traps. And this gives Sisu the ability to transform into a human.
She's supposed to be an old lady. I thought she kind of looks like an old lady, but it might just be kind of the hair.
She looked like a, not necessarily young lady, but a lady, less than middle age, just with blue, white, grey hair.
She reminds... What's the name of the character from She-Ra, the old lady with the glasses? She reminds me of that.
I'm blanking. Why am I blanking?
I don't know. You know what I mean.
Old lady with the glasses.
The weird one. The weird one who was friends with She-Ra's predecessor.
Yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah, that's vaguely similar. Yeah, that's another thing. A lot of She-Ra influences.
What hasn't this been taken from?
Pretty much everything. And then, it's funny that she immediately is able to find Sisu and then is immediately able to find the next bit of the dragon gem because she's immediately found by Namari.
Surprise.
She's got a brand new lesbian haircut.
A big cat.
Oh, a big cat. Oh, this is where we get the lovely cat lady line. And they have a bunch of back and forth and it's very, very tiresome.
Yeah, I mean, you think that Raya would be a bit more like, I hate you, instead of just like wacky banter.
She's like, oh, hey, Namari, how you been? Not, you bitch, you killed my father and doomed us all. Fuck you. No, fuck you. Binturi, go fuck yourself. They can't call each other bitch in this movie, so they call each other Binturi.
Yeah, I think it's like, let's sweep that under the rug.
And Namari, for herself, offers no apology or no acknowledgement of the part she played in, well, let's face it.
Everything.
Messing up everything.
It's all you. It's all you. But anyway, so there's a fight, and the action in this movie it's not bad.
It's not bad.
In fact, I go as far as to say it's good. It's not spectacular. It's about as good as action scene as Disney could possibly give us.
It's not Kung Fu Panda fun.
Yeah, that's another thing. Kung Fu Panda was really good at his action scenes, combining humor and also drama with some really cool animated fight scenes. And the fight scenes are just there because this is so outside Disney's comfort zone. They're comfortable pandering to their audience and giving them sweet, sappy musical numbers, not high-octane action scenes, which is fine, which is fair enough, but they acknowledge that people are sick of those sappy musical numbers and want the action scenes with, cool female characters. They just don't know how to do it, because there is no train they will not ride on. Sorry, no trend they won't ride on, even if they're not actually any good at it.
Yeah, I mean,
the
best fight they've done, ever, in my opinion, is the Maleficent Dragon fight in Sleeping Beauty. I think that's the best fight they've ever done in their brief action careers.
You see, I would have said some of the fight scenes from Tangled, because with the frying pan and stuff, because that was actually quite funny and quite fast paced and energetic, and it really tied into what they were doing. But here, the tone is less funny, so it works less.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to get away from Namari on top of her giant cat things, and they get onto this boat that's piloted by the young entrepreneur Boone. I love Boone. He's voiced by this guy Isaac Wang. He's so cool and charming and quick-witted. It's just like, hey, this is the best shrimp emporium on the river. And I like him. I think he's a pretty cool character.
I'm trying to figure out, who is he selling to if everyone is a statue in this area of Kamondra?
I guess there's a few people around and he travels along the river.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's a good point, actually. But here's the thing. Raya does not trust him. She suspects he might have poisoned their food. He is like 9 years old, but she thinks he's poisoned her food. And this brings us to the other half of the terrible way they present the message in this movie, the whole trust thing. So, this is not a bad idea for character development. Raya once trusted someone, that in fairness she had no reason to trust, but still, and it backfired horribly and basically broke the world. She would have trust issues. That is not my issue. My issue is the way they go about presenting it, because from this point on, half of Raya's dialogue is about how she doesn't trust someone or something. That's all she says. I can't trust you. I don't trust you. We can't trust him. Over and over and over and over again. And I get it. Okay, that's the message. It's not a bad message, in terms of, let's explore this issue of trust. But could you please, Disney, please stop fucking telegraphing it so very much? Jesus, it is so pathetically unsubtle. And if this was a movie for babies, I'd be fine with it. But it's not a movie for babies. It's a movie for children, young adults, and obviously the adult crowd, because Disney realized that they can get them just as well as anyone else. So just treat your audience with a little bit of fucking non-condescension. Imagine that they have a memory span longer than 15 minutes.
Boo! You suck!
No, just... It'd
been much more layered if she had, as she met each new character, she kind of like opened up more to them more and more. Because despite this, the whole trust dialogue thing, I don't trust him and stuff, they don't really show her being distrustful of other characters apart from Namira. Namari, sorry. Because there are other characters kind of meet. It's like, I like you, you're nice, you can come with me.
Yeah, I mean, initially she says, I don't trust you, but then she kind of gets over it. And so even on that, I'm going to talk about it later. I can't talk about it all right now. Here we learn a bit more about the Drun's backstory, except not really, but definitely a lot more about the Dragon's backstory. There are water powers, how it ties into the Drun's weakness for water, like water's the source of life. There are some good ideas in this movie in terms of the mythology. It's just the rest that's so fucking painful. And so then they go on to the next place they got to go to, Talon. And Raya says, it's full of thieves and con artists. You can't trust anyone there. Like she trusts anyone anywhere else. But Sisu was just like, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure they're lovely. And this brings us to another problem. Sisu is supposed to come across as kind and hopeful and optimistic. But what she actually comes off as is, best case scenario, dangerously naive and kind of stupid, if not a little bit just condescending. Or worst case scenario, just actively dismissive. Because Sisu, I don't know if you noticed, but you've been asleep for 500 years! You have no context for this world, and you're just making assumptions left and right after Raya said, here's the scenario, here's what's going on. It would be different if Raya says, here's what this place is like, and you went there, and your preconceptions based on what Raya says were challenged. It's like, hang on, Raya, you said something was going on here, but actually, it's not. Maybe you don't know as much as you think. But here's the thing. Raya says that talent is full of con artists. Sisu says it's not. They are both almost immediately conned. Raya goes to get the next gem, but encounters a small baby alone in an empty street. And she's like, oh no, poor baby, where are your parents? Turns out it's a fucking kung fu baby with a gang of monkeys who steal the rest of the gems. Now, I'll give you some credit, movie. I did not see that coming. I mean...
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that, and I'll admit, some of the funniest scenes are with this martial art baby who shouldn't really be able to hold her own head up, but still, whatever. And it turns out, her parents were also, her whole family were turned into statues. Did the monkeys teach her martial arts? There's so many questions. Anyway, Sisu, meanwhile, is approached by this old woman in the street after trying to get a bunch of, items on credit. Don't think she knows what credit really is. That was a whole thing. And she says that she's going to, help her out, but then it's just like pushes her outside the city gates to be taken by the Droon. It's like, oh no, I trusted you and you betrayed that trust. You think that would be a learning point for Sisu? No! For the rest of the movie, she can always like, trusting people is important. This is the big problem I have with this movie. It is saying one thing, but showing us another. It says you should trust people, but then it proves that a lot of the times you shouldn't trust people. There's a whole thing. It turns out like the leader of Talon has been turned into a statue, blah, 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 blah. They get another gem piece, blah, 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 blah. We're really not missing much. They bring along Noi for reasons, because, it's a kung fu baby. Are you going to abandon a kung fu baby? Are you not going to take a kung fu baby on your road trip? I would take a kung fu baby. Mark, would you take a kung fu baby?
No, of course I would not abandon the kung fu baby. The baby can come with me on the boat.
Exactly, because it's a kung fu baby with a gang of monkeys. You take that with you. And they travel down the river some more, blah, 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 blah. And they talk, they have like the 50 millionth conversation about trust. And here's the thing. I thought, once again, that this movie's building up to something that it was not building up to. I once again gave a shitty movie the benefit of the doubt and was similarly disappointed. I don't know when, I'm going to fucking learn, but still. So, they talk about trust, and Caesar's like, you should trust, and Raya's like, you can't trust. But here's the thing. Trust is earned. And the weird thing is, the movie does show this. She doesn't trust Boone, but he earns her trust. She doesn't trust Noi at first, but then Noi ends up earning her trust by helping her out later on. And there's other characters, well, there's one other character about the movie that initially she does not trust, but earns her trust. And if that was the message of the movie, like, you shouldn't trust easily, but nor should you constantly distrust people, just point blank, you should let people earn your trust. Give them a chance, even a second chance, maybe, if they earn that, to earn your trust. Because that is an interesting, complex message that is very useful for children to learn. That would be really good. That would be creative and subtle. But then, if they did that, this would be a Pixar movie, not a Disney movie. Because Pixar, sometimes at least, do interesting, complex messages that can be understood and internalized by children, and Disney do the bare fucking minimum. You should trust people. Message done. Give us an Oscar, please. No. This is, I cannot overemphasize how bad this movie is written. Not in all areas, not all the characters are written badly, not all the dialogues are written badly, not all the ideas are written badly, but There is too much bad stuff in this for me to call this a good movie, or at least a well-written movie. It is really bad writing, but they flaunt it like they're fucking Lawrence of Arabia. Like, oh, look at all the complicated and complex and interesting messages about life, love, and humanity we're sharing. No, you're not. You're doing the bare fucking minimum. If even that. And you make all your characters look stupid by doing so. And they deserve better, frankly. I hate this movie. God. On that note, I think it's time for some ads. Check them out. And we're back. Okay, so...
Oh, dear. You should have written a book about your views on this.
Just on this movie or Disney? Because other people have written anti-Disney...
As a whole.
I could do an essay. I could easily do an essay about all the things that are wrong with this movie and all the terribly unsubtle way... Like... I've criticized movies in before for being too subtle, like not making certain things clear. But I do appreciate subtlety, and I do appreciate... And you know what? You don't have to be so subtle that you overcorrect and state the message of your movie over and over and over again. It's so telegraphed. It really is, and it's annoying.
I wonder if this is like a consequence of Frozen 2's more complicated story being not understood by a lot of people. Because I've watched the Frozen 2 behind-the-scenes thingy they did on Disney+, so even the story writers couldn't figure out what they were trying to explain. So I wonder if kind of like telegraphing the entirety of Raya to the audience is a consequence of Frozen 2's weird complexity.
Frozen 2 didn't have complexity, it just had bad writing. Like, it brought up complex ideas and swiftly abandoned them in the favour of simplicity. And I imagine production again on this movie started before Frozen 2 was released. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe there was a quick turnaround. Maybe they had to, the writer had to quickly jot down the sides and give them to the voice actors like 5 minutes before they started recording. But well, who knows?
Everyone had to record from home, obviously, due to the pandemic. So there might have been some changes caused by that. And also the fact that Raya was originally going to be voiced by, I think she was going to be voiced by Cassie Lang or something like that. Oh no, Cassie Steele, sorry. She's going to be voiced by Cassie Steele. For some reason, they replaced her with Kelly.
Yeah, Cassie Lang is Ant-Man's daughter.
Oh, sorry. That would have been awkward.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Raya and the Last Ant.
Why am I in this movie? Okay.
Raya and the Last Ant.
Oh, jeez. God. And so, Jesus, they go to this next place, Spine, and oh god, there's a bit where Sisu was just like, we can just knock on the door, and I was just like, have you learned nothing? We can't trust these people. They're supposed to be really fearsome warriors. And Sisu's like, it'll be fine. Knocks on the door, is immediately caught in a trap. I mean, this movie is doing my criticism for me.
To make Gurgi look smart.
I could just show clips from the movie and you would understand, if I could at least.
To make the cast of Black Cauldron look smart.
Oh god, Jesus. That is bad. And so then they meet Tong, voiced by Benedict Wong. And I love him. I love Benedict Wong. I love him in this movie. He's like a big warrior, but he's a himbo. He is just a complete himbo, and I love him to bits. And he lost his whole tribe. He's pretty much the only one left, including his family. Oh no. And one thing I do like about this movie is that uniting all these people from all these different areas who have all suffered the same kind of loss and are uniting them together to, solve this whole problem. And I like that. I think that's an example of a subtle story thread, a subtle theme that works very well. If they did more stuff like that, then this movie would be much better, because they don't go on about it. They don't say, hey, look at us, all these different people from all these different places uniting together. Let's sing Kumbaya. Or better yet, good morning, starshine. The earth says hello. No. They don't do that. They don't do that, and so that's a really interesting idea. But at this point, Namari tracks them down and, confronts them. They escape out the back way while Raya holds her off. And it's a pretty cool standoff that leads to an okay fight scene. It's pretty good. But it ends with Sisu saving Raya, thanks to her newfound fog powers, because they got another gem. And she stares into Namari's eyes, and Namari stares back at her like, oh shit, a dragon. And I imagine, like, internally it set her back to when she was a kid and she was like a huge dragon nerd. It's a really interesting little moment.
I thought it was great.
But it leads to this scene. So Namari goes back to Fang. I guess it's really easy to go to all these different places really quickly. Like, how big is Commandra? How big is this place? I don't know. So she goes back to her mum, played by Sandra Oh, and it's just like, hey, so Raya's getting all the dragon gem things, but also she resurrected a dragon. And her mum's like, wow, okay, here's what you're going to do. Don't trust Raya, do everything that benefits our nation solely, and grab the dragon gems and also capture a dragon. I'm sorry, what? Capture the dragon and bring her here. Does that remind you of anyone, perhaps? A royalty member who is charged with, by their parent, to go and capture some sort of mythological being in a land of many different kinds of nations and cultures. But you know what? It's so annoying. It's so annoying. I can't think of who that is. It's actually... It's really infuriating that I can't think of that name.
That's rough, buddy.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's Pete's Dragon all over again.
Yeah, jeez. And also, earlier in the movie I mentioned earlier, Namari is just like, yeah, Fang is really struggling right now. We're not doing so great. But then we see Fang, and that place looks like a fucking resort. Everyone looks great. Everyone looks happy. And everyone's getting like taught by the Queen about the history of their culture and stuff, and they all got lovely clothes, like the finest silks and garments. And it's just like, was she lying, or does the dragon gems actually bring prosperity, or was she just? Is this movie just full of shit? It's full of shit because, like. Here's the thing. You could have added more complexity by showing that Fang was struggling really, really badly, and that's why they felt the need to unite the Dragon Gems, and it adds an extra level of moral ambiguity, because, like, yeah, they're doing bad things, but they're doing it because they want to protect their families and their homes. And that doesn't make it okay, but it makes it understandable. No, they live in a fucking barley sandal resort where there's like water lilies on all of the decorative fountains. That place looks fucking lovely. You're not doing well. And if it was just like, this is just the Royal Palace and everyone else is suffering, nope, this is all we see of Fang. So that's all the context we have. So as far as we know, they were always doing great. This movie's stupid. And Sandra Oh, Queen. No, I'm sorry. So your plan is to capture the dragon. Okay, fine. Why? What do you think the dragon could do for you? Just do tricks for you? Is that it? How? How the fuck is she supposed to capture the dragon by herself with maybe a little bit of reinforcements? It's a fucking dragon! It's a dragon! They can fly!
Let's catch it in a net. That always works. This is a dragon-proof net.
Oh my god, do you know what it is? Do you know what it is?
What?
It's catch the dragon, catch the dragon, catch that dragon now! It's a fucking Hanna-Barbera cartoon! What are you going to do with her? How are you going to restrain her? How are you going to keep her there? Do you really think they're capturing a dragon, these beings of light and love, and from which all life comes from. Like, they gave us water, and from all water comes life. Do you really think that puts you in the right, Queen Sandra Oh? Really? How do you internally justify that? I'd be fine with this whole thing if she found a way to, do mental gymnastics to convince herself that it was the right thing to do. But with the kingdom that she rules looking just fine, that doesn't hold any water. And it's like capturing the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus. It's like, ha, Santa, now I have captured you. This will be great for everyone. No, you're definitely on the naughty list. What? Why? You have captured Santa. I am in chains. You put Santa in chains. How do you think you're the good guy in this scenario? It's bad writing. It's fucking bad writing. But meanwhile, the Dragon Gang is on the way there. They have another conversation about trust. I feel the need to slit my wrists.
Oh dear.
And it's so annoying because this is precipitated by Tong handing over his Dragon Gem. Just like, here, take my Dragon Gem. I don't want it. You should have it. Earning Raya's trust! I hate this movie!
Although she did ask him beforehand to protect the children when she went to fight Maria, so I suppose that's kind of like a quid pro quo.
No, but here's the thing. So, she earned his trust. The good message is there. They're just ignoring it over all this bullshit. And, dragon shit. And so, Sisu and Raya come to a head in terms of the trust-don't trust dichotomy, even though Raya, in this instance, is clearly in the right, kind of. But then she takes her to, like, the place where the dragons made their last stand. We get a flashback to all the dragons dying. Because so far, Sisu has been talking about her dragon siblings, like her older brothers and sisters. And turns out she's kind of like the runt of the dragon litter. Do dragons have litters? I don't know. Eggs.
Litters of eggs?
Not really. Clutch? Hatchlings? I don't know. So, and talks about, what a big sacrifice and how they trusted her, despite her being the least powerful of all of them, with saving the world. And, not really the same scenario, Sisu, because, it's just not the same scenario. It's oh god, it's so stupid. And so they go to Fang to get the last piece, and there's a big, long, extended sequence about how they're going to heist the Dragon Gem thing. Remember that episode of She-Ra where they talk about the plan and is in various animation styles? They basically do that again. And Cece's plan is just her going up to Namaru and say, hey, I don't think you're entirely bad. And Namaru's like, okay. And then they literally hand in hand skip off into the sunset. I know it's a joke. I know it's played for laughs. But that's literally her way of thinking. And it's, after everything that's happened, Sisu, after everything, do you know what I was expecting? I was expecting her to completely lose trust in everyone and saying, oh, humanity's so evil and dark and meh, and going a big, third act temper tantrum, which would have been bad in and of itself, don't get me wrong. But this movie somehow made up something worse. Someone who was so completely oblivious to her own personal experience. Because at this point, she's just been relying on Raya's experience, but now she's had enough experience to, formulate her own ideas and her own morality based on this new world. And she's still laboring under the pretense that this obvious bad person might somehow be good if you're just vaguely nice to her. What the fuck? And so, but Namari is experiencing, a conflict of crisis. She's getting way more character development than Raya is, at least. She's like, ooh, my mum just told me to kidnap a dragon, and I like dragons. I'm not sure about what to do now. And so she comes across... they send a message to her, basically Raya saying, okay, I don't trust you, but why don't you come, we'll talk it out. That's what happens, right?
Yeah, that's right. I assumed that they were going to invite her to a meal. Like, it kind of felt like that was the setup, and like, oh, random firework.
But then she turns up with a crossbow. Did they have... I know it's not based directly on Southeast Asia, but did they have crossbows?
Well, they have bows. I mean, I don't know where she got... Where is she hiding the crossbow?
I don't know. Upper bum, maybe? Who knows? And... Oh, God. And so she starts, like, wildly pointing the crossbow at all the people there.
She's having a Malfoy moment. She's having a Malfoy moment. I've got to do this, or it'll kill me.
Draco, I'll handle this. Trust me, I had it coming. He refused to give me a pay rise. And the movie tries. It tries so hard to present it like Raya's lack of trust of Namari causes the death of Sisu when she sends her chain sword thing out, knocks the crossbow, and she ends up shooting Sisu, killing her.
Dead.
Except, but before that, the movie also showed Namari pulling the fucking trigger of the fucking crossbow!
Stop your foul whining, you filthy piece of distended rectum!
No! I will not! Shut up, River! Because this movie constantly says, you should trust people, give people a second chance, and then shows them being not worthy of trust, or being worthy of trust, but still looks at the people you shouldn't trust and say, go ahead and trust them. No! No! She was going to shoot the fucking dragon! She was going to do it! And... No! No! It's 100% Namari's fault! This whole thing is her fault! When she was a kid, when she's an adult, it's all her fault, and Raya is trying to fix this whole thing, and the movies are marching like, shame on you, Raya! Shame on you for not trusting the people that caused the apocalypse! Fucking hell, at this point, that's just survival instinct! Jesus! And so then Raya, having seen Sisu being killed by Namari, is like,
honey, you've got a big storm coming.
And goes after her, and the movie presents it like, oh, she's blinded by rage. But, I mean, that's it. Because with the death of the last dragon, all the water in the world goes away, meaning the Droon have free access to everyone. Also, side note, the human body is 60% water. Wouldn't that have made everyone like go like a raisin, just completely dehydrate? I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this. And so all the other members of the Dragon Gem gang are holding off the Droon by... That's just a stupid name. I'm sorry, Droon. It sounds like someone with a very thick accent trying to say, and he drewed something. He drawn something.
Or he drooned.
He drooned. It's...
Right,
I don't know. It's not a fantastic name. I don't know if it's based on actual mythology, so if it is the actual name, I apologize, but it sounds a little bit weird to me. Meanwhile, Raya is just out of sheer rage fighting Namari. The Namari has the gall to say, you know as well as I do, you're equally to blame for Sisu's death. No! You shot her! Like, I know she flicked a sword thing at you, and that probably didn't help, but you shot her! You shot her! You shot her! You fucking shot her! Own up to your own culpability, you bitch!
Oh dear.
And so, all hell is breaking loose. Droon is turning everyone to statues, including Sandra Oh. But then the other guys are just like, hey guys, can you stop fighting for a second so we can get the fuck out of here? And they try and get a bunch of people out. And... oh yeah, but then she's just like, okay, we need to reassemble the gem pieces. But then the rest of them refuse to trust Namari.
For good reason.
For good reason. And suddenly Raya is the one that trusts her? Because she remembers Sisu telling her about how she should trust people every 15 minutes of the movie. And so her character arc just goes a complete 180. And their characters kind of do a 180 as well. And so she makes the noble sacrifice to give Namari her piece of the dragon gem and gets turned to stone by the Droon. Wow. And they all do it, and Namari is left to assemble the gem and exercise the Droon. And in a much better movie, this would have been an excellent choice. You know, giving it to the antagonist and leaving it up to them to make the right decision for the first time would be really, really cool. But it's Raya and the Last Dragon. So I don't care anymore. She does so. Droon go away. Everyone's cool. I love this town. And then all the dragons come back. Yay, there's a whole bunch of them. And I will say at this point, the animation in this movie is spectacular. The water physics in particular are great, but just like the way that dragons move, all the color that surrounds this, and how each locale does look unique. It's one of the best animated movies, I think, of all time. At least in terms of CGI animation.
Someone's going to edit that out of context.
Oh, Jesus, fuck. But then, everything's fine now. Dragons are back. Sisu's back. Yeah. It's really cool. Raya goes back and reunites with Chief Daniel Day Kim. Everyone, including all the tribes, gather at Heart to celebrate and apparently are reunited as Commandra. Everyone forgives each other, and I go have myself a little cry. So what was the moral of the story? You should trust people. Yeah, I'll give you a moral movie. You should give people second chances, but they have to earn them. You should trust people, but they have to earn your trust. And if you just constantly trust people, and even though they do not deserve your trust, they do not earn your trust, and they constantly act against not only your interest, but their own interest and everyone else's interest, and just are self-destructive and externally destructive, you don't have to trust them. Trust is not owed. It is not an obligation. Because if you feel like you owe it to yourself to trust everyone, you're a doormat. I don't get me wrong. It's good to trust people. You should. It's good for you to take that first step. But if they slap your hand in the way, you don't have to keep on offering it. Have some self-respect and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to find people that I can trust. And I'm going to be friends with them. And I'm going to be allied with them. And we're going to be better people together with them. I'm going to leave you behind. And if you want to come to us, if you want to ask for a second chance, you go right ahead. Maybe we'll give it to you. If you can show proper contrition and show that you are worthy of trust. And you can. Everyone, no matter what they've done on this planet, is capable of earning a second chance, is capable of being better, and capable of earning trust and opening themselves up to trust other people in turn. That's good. That's important. And the truth is, we should trust each other more. We should be more unified. But at the same time, we should not tolerate people doing bad things. Because otherwise, people will take advantage of that. This movie is a fucking mess. And you know what? Considering how fractured everyone is, it's cool. The dragons are back. What's to stop them all from fighting again? Are the dragons just going to tell them not to? In fairness, if a dragon told me not to fight with someone, I wouldn't do it. But I get the feeling that these people are just so broken that they're going to keep on fighting. And also, it's a pretty sorry state of affairs if the only reason why these people aren't fighting with each other is because there's a bunch of mythological beings around telling them not to. This movie just shows such an ugly side of humanity, but offers no concrete, no clever juxtaposition of that. Oh, actually, no, it kind of does with Brune and Noi and Tong earning the trust, but it doesn't focus on that. It focuses on how you shouldn't trust people while telling us how you should trust people. It's the most mismatched, contradictory message I've seen from Disney in a long fucking time. Okay, so let's have some ads, and then we'll start wrapping things up. And we're back. Okay, so final thoughts. We talked about the representation in the voice cast, lack of representation with in terms of the gay community, because Jesus, I just wanted a moment where I could shout out, "Love knows no gender!" It won't give me that. It just won't give me that. And also, so this movie goes on about how we should be unified, yeah. But you know what? As good as it is to be unified, what's interesting about this world is that there's all these different locations with different cultures, different peoples, different architecture and fashion and customs. And that's diversity. And whilst we should be friendly with each other and allies with each other, in many ways being different from each other is a good thing and should be celebrated. And I hate it when movies, specifically children movies, are just like, hey, we shouldn't be different. We shouldn't focus on the differences. We should focus on the similarities. We're all the same. We should be fighting. And yes, you should be fighting. You should be unified. But you know what? I like the fact that I'm different from people. I love the fact that people are different from me. I view that as a positive. You're completely different from me. You speak a different language, have a different culture and custom. That is cool. That is fascinating. On top of all your own individual quirks as just a singular human being, why do we constantly shove this message of homogenization? Why is that? I don't understand it. And the sad thing is, whilst all this movie does have all these individual locations with all their unique things, we don't actually learn that much about them. We're in them for a hot second, then we bugger the hell out. And granted, that's because we're focusing on the characters, and it's an hour and a half or so movie. How long is the runtime?
Hour and 52.
Hour and 52 minutes. So, nearly 2 hours. Okay, so that's a bit better, but it's not a ton of time to do a lot of world building, but it's enough. Maybe cut out 5 of the trust conversations, you know? And I hate this movie. This is the question. I mentioned Moana earlier. Do I hate this movie more than Moana? Moana has nothing interesting to say, does nothing really interesting, and is just a Disney checklist movie. This movie is not a Disney checklist movie, and it has something to say, but it says it terribly. So, pick your poison. Do I prefer the movie that has nothing to say, so says nothing, or the movie that has something to say, but says it horribly, and shows something different? Do I prefer lack of ambition or lack of talent and competence? I don't know. What about you, Mark? Do you have any preference?
Well, it could take the third route and go watch Zootopia instead.
Yeah, you know what? Why not? That was a movie that had a complex message and actually showed it effectively and examined nuance. And yes, it kind of failed at the finishing post with the whole surprise villain thing. But even then, it wasn't a terrible example of talking about complicated subjects in a way that is accessible for children. Oh, God.
I mean, Wreck-It Ralph kind of did it quite well as well in its own kind of case of identity and relationships and to their culture.
What, stay in your role if you're not happy with it? Just like, you're born to do one thing, and if you can do it vaguely well, that's what you should do and don't aspire to be anything else?
It goes be more along the lines of be comfortable with who you are.
But he didn't like who he was. He wanted to change and be something different. And yeah, you should like who you are, but here's the thing. People always have said to me when I was a kid, like, you should believe in yourself. You should like yourself. You should be confident in yourself. But what if yourself is an arsehole?
Well, then you go change yourself. Unless you like being an arsehole.
Yeah, no, because, yes, self-confidence is important, but so is personal growth. And I can't go into a whole diatribe on the various failings of Disney. I just can't, because I've been shouting for an hour and a half.
You do it every episode anyway.
Yep. So, Is there anything else good we can say about this movie that we haven't already mentioned?
Well, aside from the storytelling, I'd say it's a pretty darn good production. Because if you kind of like go back through the history, even if they've made rubbish films, the storytelling's appalling and stuff, I do feel that their animation quality has always gotten better, more or less, of each new film they make.
Yeah, like I said, the animation quality is great, but as I said before, CGI technology has advanced to the point where it's actually very easy and even kind of cheap to do a relatively good CGI animated movie. I'm not saying this is a bad CGI animated movie or a mediocre animated movie. It's not. It's very, very good. But that's less impressive nowadays as it used to be. Early 2000s, it was very impressive when DreamWorks did it. And when, Disney started doing CGI animation, it was vaguely impressive. But now almost any studio can do a pretty decent CGI movie with a tenth of the budget that looks comparable to a lot of other CGI movies. We've hit the glass ceiling in terms of how great we can get it. The only real next step for CGI animation is being like photorealistic, like a CGI movie.
Oh, we all know how well that went.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay, any other final thoughts on this movie?
Let's hope the next one's better.
Yeah, there is word of a sequel.
Oh, God. Let's hope the next Disney film is better. We can hope.
Yeah, I say this word of a sequel. Kelly Marie Tran says that she wants a sequel and she wants to explore the racial relationship between Raya and Namara.
Ooh. Well, that's gonna happen.
Which is good. I'm so glad that she wants that. I hate to break it to you, Kelly. Disney aren't going to do that because they are more than happy to take money from gay people, but they'd rather not show them on screen in a way that can't be edited out easily for the foreign market. And on that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining me today.
Always a pleasure.
And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops. And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes. Check out our last episode on Asian representation and Asian superheroes. That's going to be really good for you. You can listen to the show on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, or podcapers.com. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. You know what, Mark? Next episode, I just want to talk about something good. I need to talk about something good. What's on the schedule for the next episode?
The last Dirty Disney Dozen.
Oh, fuck. Cue the music!